Welcome to Coping with Ghosting, the podcast that provides hope, healing, and understanding for anyone who's been ghosted in any walk of life. I'm your host, Gretta, and I'm here with my friend and returning guest, Estee K. Estee, could you please introduce yourself to listeners?
Hi, Greta. I'm so excited to be here with you again today. Yes, I'm an empowerment and mindfulness coach. I'm also a podcaster now, and I offer a lot of support and guidance through different various journeys that people go through, really helping people get connected back with who they are and what they do.
And what's the name of your podcast?
Soulful synthesis.
That's so cool. I love it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a picture of me when I was a little girl on it, so you can't miss that.
Well, the intention of this episode is for all of us to chill out and relax. And I just want to start with a little kind of story slash just information that's been on my mind that I think will help. When I was ghosted by my friend, I had a lot more time for myself. And I decided to be really intentional on how I used the time because in the past, this friendship took up a lot of like literal time and space. I was commuting to see her, be with her family. And when she cut me out of her life, it was kind of shocking. It was jarring. And all of a sudden, I had like what felt kind of like extra time. And so I chose to make that me time. And I used it to heal and reflect on what I really wanted in my future friendships and all my relationships. So healing isn't just about time that's passing by. Like it's like it could be a year from now and I could be in the same place after the day I was ghosted, but I decided to use the time to do activities that would help me in my mind and heart to feel better. So I, for example, went to therapy and I did meditations and I did things that would help me to relax. So here are some things that I think are important to remember. And they're always the first things I say to new members of my Facebook group. And I don't even know how many times I've said this on the podcast, but I think it's always important to hear. Being ghosted isn't personal. It's not your fault. You didn't deserve it. You can move forward and feel better. Time alone won't heal you. It's what you do with the time. You know, in the Facebook group called Coping with Ghosting, it's free, it's private. We all come in with different stories. Some people have been ghosted by friends, family, coworkers, some in romance. And the purpose of the group is to come together as one, motivating and healing and inspiring each other. So if you haven't joined it, I encourage you, just click the link in the show notes. And I know that this healing process isn't easy, but I want you to know that you can do it. So just like if you were grieving somebody who's passed away, this is a time to treat yourself with love, to take breaks, to rest. It can be exhausting, but just keep in mind that you're whole, worthy, complete without your ghost. You are important. You're special. You deserve respect and care from yourself and other people. And even after you've been ghosted, please remember that you can still experience healthy relationships with people who are honest and communicative, trustworthy, and loving. And after being ghosted, it was hard for me to open my heart again, but I chose to slowly trust people again, and it paid off. And I'm walking proof that you can do this. So, not everyone will ghost you, not everyone is a ghost. Make sure that you're intentional on who you're surrounding yourself with, people who are valuing your presence. After we're ghosted, it's really important and helpful to reflect on the relationship you have with yourself as well. So, like, what words are you saying to yourself? Are they kind? Are they empathetic? Are they truthful? I encourage you to be gentle with the way you're speaking to yourself. In fact, Estee and I recorded a whole episode about this called Move Forward After Being Ghosted, Positive Self-Talk with SDK, which I'll link to in the show notes as well. And this is really important because I used to beat myself up about being ghosted, and I'd ruminate on every single microscopic detail of the relationship, and it was pointless. And I thought things like, if only I'd done this, if only I'd done that, they would have stayed. And I was my harshest critic. And these thoughts were super stressful and unhelpful. So, as my former podcast guest, Lauren Josephine, says, the person ghosted you because of who they are, not because of who you are. So, please be kind to yourself and have self-compassion for anything you need during this time, and feel your feelings and allow them to flow. Your confusion, your fears, insecurities, angers are information that allow you to get in touch with what's going on within yourself and help you become more self-aware. So honor how you feel, and remember that all the thoughts you're having are not facts, and trust your ability to rebuild a stronger sense of self. You deserve a life filled with joy, ease, and pleasure, and no matter what you're going through, you can heal.
I love that you shared that, Greta. I'm really happy you did because I also want to add that you can honor yourself where you're at. Sometimes I think after being ghosted, and I know I felt this way as well, that I could have been a whole different person and it would have changed things. But where I am now doesn't negate where I could be in the future, and it doesn't change anything else that's happened. Where I am is perfectly okay. And it's actually at the right moment in time. So honor that even if you're feeling low and incomplete, or you have your fears and insecurities, that this is simply where you are right now. It is not where you're going to be forever. And then take it one step at a time.
That's such a helpful reminder. Thank you for adding that. Exactly. Right. And so now, if you're anything like me, you're going to have a little bit more time because this person is now no longer in your life. And so I invite you to think about these questions. How has your relationship with time changed since you were ghosted? How do you plan on filling the time differently? Is there something that you really love to do or that you really want to do, but you haven't done? Is there something you've been putting off because you didn't feel like you had the time? Well,
It's
now's the time.
I was going to say it's also a really great opportunity when you are in a relationship prior to even being ghosted, that there's all these things that you want to put aside because you want to prioritize the person that you're with. And after being ghosted, it feels like there's no longer a priority in your life. So I think anything you wanted to try or experience, or things maybe when you were younger you wanted to do, but you just felt like you've been involved in different work life or relationships, whatever it is, this is the time. I mean, if you have it, like really dig deep, fill it with all the things that you deserve.
Your words really resonate with me. Um, we're human beings. We're not human doings. And I know that in our society, that working our little faces off is really rewarded, right? But I think balance is important. And I know a lot of listeners have this same issue, that when I was ghosted, it felt like everything was happening all at once. Like it was just a tsunami. Like this happened, and then this happened, and then I was ghosted, and then my dog got sick, and all these things, just one thing after the next. It was overwhelming. Being ghosted is overwhelming. And I've suffered from burnout. And I know, Estee, you've suffered from burnout as well.
Yeah, I have, even recently, as much as a couple months ago.
Yeah. So let's talk about ways to kind of just relax. One that I found, which is really easy for everybody to do at any moment, really, is to create a glimmer. A glimmer is just the opposite of a trigger. And it's essentially something like a cue that brings you a sense of joy. So, for example, a glimmer in my life would be seeing a really big, bright rainbow in the sky. It's just wow, like a wow moment for me.
I love that. Mine is actually snowfall because I grew up in Southern California and that was never a real possibility. So I don't know why I've always thought about snow or if I've ever seen it, even in a movie, or if I pull it up on a YouTube video, it calms me and feels very peaceful. I think glimmers are really important to remember that they're more like cues for yourself internally that trigger some kind of emotional response in a positive way. So anything at all, it could be little or big. I know someone used to think about like a litter of puppies would help them because they're so stinking cute. Or
Hmm.
if you love the color pink, or if you love having a coffee in the morning and that memory or the thinking of the smell of coffee is the thing that does it for you, then that could be your glimmer. And they're so helpful because it's not only just an easy way to relax, but it's also neurologically a really great way to calm you down in a sense that you're actually triggering healthy hormones that are going to help you feel better neurologically. So it's a great way to actually give yourself, it's like having a cup of tea or getting a warm hug, on an emotional level. And I think especially after being ghosted, there's such a fragile feeling that you have being in such a fragile state that this is such a great way of, helping you feel more whole and bringing you together and closer to yourself. So you've asked this before, but like, what are your glimmers? What are things that get you brightened up, feeling excited and grateful?
Yeah, everybody needs to ask themselves that question. It's reminding me of the song, These Are a Few of My Favorite
I
Things.
love that song, Sound of Music. Shout out to Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews, come on the podcast and share your favorite things, please. Um, so I was just thinking of a list, just like there's so many things, but one is okay, definitely puppies. Yes, okay,
So
for
cute.
me, like my favorite Instagram dogs, my favorite influencer dogs, Lulu and friends, they're dachshunds in the Netherlands. They just had puppies, and every morning I wake up just to look at the puppies on Instagram, which is kind of ridiculous. But one day they didn't post and I was kind of sad. But yeah, basically that. And also just seeing all the greenery. Right now, I'm visiting Massachusetts and there's just so much green here. It's gorgeous. I can't even. I see it and I never want to leave.
I love that.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I just looking up at the sky, watching the clouds, that kind of thing, or bodies of waters and hummingbirds. Ooh, hummingbirds.
I love hummingbirds. They're so cute and little.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. See, those little moments, even thinking about it, got my mind thinking about all the little things that I want to pick up on throughout my day. And already I'm feeling even better thinking about all the things that I'm even grateful for. This is also essentially like a gratitude practice too, which
Yeah.
is such a beautiful way to connect.
Yeah, because our brains tend to focus on the negative and things that we're lacking. Oh, we're lacking it. We're missing this, we're missing that. But this is your reminder that you are whole and complete without your ghost. You're not lacking anything.
And in fact, there's so much you do already have and are surrounded by. And
Mhm.
glimmers are going to really help you connect with that. So I love that you brought this up.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. If you've been ghosted, it's important to focus on yourself and prioritize your self care. And that's why I'm all about therapy. Because regardless of whether you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just navigating life's obstacles, therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a different way. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and accessible. And this is important because finding a therapist can be tough, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in my show notes. It's betterhelp.com/copingwithghosting. Clicking that link supports my podcast, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. And because finding a therapist can be challenging, if you don't really fit with that therapist, which is a common theme with therapy, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance or who's in your network. After being ghosted, therapy helped me better understand that it had nothing to do with what I said or what I did in the relationship or even what I looked like. Going to therapy taught me how to choose people who were choosing me. So, if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the show notes or visit betterhelp.com/copingwithghosting. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/copingwithghosting. Thanks, BetterHelp, for supporting my podcast. Laughter is another really important way to reduce stress and cortisol levels. Can we talk about funny things that happened to us recently? I have one to share.
Go.
I don't even know how to explain this, but I'll try my best. So I was on a little walk here in Massachusetts around the place I'm visiting, and I turned a corner and I stopped because I looked down and I saw this beaver staring up at me with this shocked expression, like, oh, who are you? And I looked at it like, what? What? I was not expecting to see a beaver. And we just kind of locked eyes and just were like, okay, no. And I kind of backed up and he ran away as quickly as he could. And I was like on the phone at the same time. And I was telling my friend, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I just saw a beaver. That was so unexpected. And somebody in the complex opened their door and said, oh, and if you think that's clearly they were listening in on my conversation. This lady said, oh, if you think that's bad, be careful. I would just stay away from this side of the complex because there's a bobcat on the loose.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was freaking out, but I was like, I'm going to still take my walk and talk to my friends. So I'm going to keep on going. And I I Google what to do if you see a bobcat because I'm freaking out. And then when I get to the other side of the complex, I see the trash area and it has a white picket fence around it, but through the white fence, I could see the shadow of a bobcat going into one of the dumpsters, like climbing all over it and going into the dumpster. And I know that people constantly go over to those bins to throw away their trash. And luckily there's a fence around it. So I kind of decided to do a stakeout. I was like, I am going to be a good Samaritan. I'm going to protect whoever is going up to those trash cans because of this bobcat. And I sat there and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to make a YouTube video of this because this is exactly the type of content that goes viral. Like when people see these crazy wild animal situations, like
It's
it's
true.
right. So I was like, okay. So I sat there on the grass, like, I don't know, 30 feet away from bobcat area. And it was just going to town in that little dumpster. And here I was narrating, like, I can't believe it. I'm finally having a wildlife incident. Like, I'm not the kind of person that goes outside and sees a dinosaur or finds bones or whatever. Like, this is so exciting for me. And so finally, like 5 minutes later, a man drives up to the trash to take his trash out. And I was like, hey, there's a bobcat in there. And he's like, well, okay, are you going to call 911 or are you going to call animal control? And I'm like, no. And he's like, okay. And he kind of looks annoyed with me, but I'm like, I just wanted to tell you so you don't get eaten alive. And so he bravely walks up to the white picket fence and he rattles it. And meanwhile, there's another man walking over with his trash too. So there's two guys, and I'm like really worried for them. And both of them start cracking up and they're like, whoa, that's a big raccoon. And the guy's like, oh, that's just trash panda. It's not a bobcat. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm anonymous here because I thought the whole time it was a scary bobcat, but it was this raccoon. And now I look like a fool. And I just walked away. I was like, okay,
Walk
whatever.
away anonymously. Nobody knows you.
Nobody knows that I just had this big, but it's like she said bobcat. And then honestly, the shadow really did look like a bobcat.
Raccoons are big and they're mean.
Yeah.
I used to see big ones roaming around in the city, which you don't often see, but I saw baby raccoon once. But oh my gosh, what a crazy story, Greta. Oh,
It
you
was
made it out on the other side.
it was really special. It was really silly. I mean, it's not like ha 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 ha, but it is wah wah wah.
It is funny though. I mean, I feel like if we made it into like one of those, memes or gifs, like you could totally do like the face of
Yeah.
a bobcat that turns into it, like with a
I
black
know.
raccoon.
That's so true.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that though. I got a good laugh out of that though. So maybe all the listeners did too.
Do you have a funny story?
Oh my gosh. Recently, I don't live as an exciting life as you. I haven't seen any bobcats. Let's think. The funniest story I always go to is my high school story because I always think that's hilarious. But I did have a stare down with a pigeon actually recently. So I was walking to a cafe and I was crossing the street and there was these flock of pigeons. I suppose they're a flock, and they were all kind of hanging about, pecking the ground. There was nothing on the ground. And I started walking forward, but then this pigeon kind of like beelined for where I was walking towards. And I looked at this pigeon and I call all pigeons Fred. I don't really know why. No offense to Fred, the name. It's not an offensive thing.
No.
That's the name that came to mind. So I looked at this pigeon and I was like, what? Okay. So I kind of stomped so it would fly away, but it didn't. It just kept like flying in place, like balancing where I was going. And it was like hopping and following me. So I'm playing, you see me just doing this like dance move with a pigeon.
Mhm.
I kid you not, for probably like a minute, I was walking with my boyfriend actually, and he was a little bit behind me, but I swear I was doing this like dance with this pigeon where they kept like, walking to where I'm walking, but you know how they kind of do this movement with their head, like
Yeah.
the cocking your head back and forth kind of a thing. So I was just laughing because this pigeon is just like waddling towards me
Yeah.
and following me everywhere. And I think it's because I may have had or my boyfriend had like peanuts with him or something where I was like,
Mm.
okay, maybe you're smelling some kind of nuts or something. But I'm like, I finally stepped away from the pigeon after some people came. Like there was this guy actually that came in a scooter and just like went straight for the flock of pigeons. And I thought, okay, great. I'm just gonna run now. I was never here. Nobody ever saw this. But it was one of those feelings of I was in my own world and everyone else was going about their day, probably thinking nothing. And here I am having this dance with a Fred, and I have no.
That's really funny. That's super cute. I love that story.
Yeah, that was a recent encounter. I think it's also something you've taught me actually is to make most of your life in whatever way you can. If you're really opening up to like the glimmers of life, you'll start to see, I think, really funky things happening. Can be funny,
Yeah.
and it could be a fun time.
You know what I did one time, Estee, that was so cool. Um, Speaking of funny things and just like finding glimmers, a few years ago, I had a funny party um, where I invited many of my close friends to tell their funniest stories that ever happened to them in their lives. And it was a Zoom, and like everybody was muted whenever somebody told a funny story, and we just all, it was probably the silliest thing ever.
I love that. That's such a fun way to connect with other people. Were,
Yeah.
were there funny stories, or do some people have a little bit of not so funny?
Oh no, there were hilarious stories. I mean, I loved all of them pretty much. There are two people that ripped their pants in really unfortunate public spaces, but there was one guy who man, he drank a goldfish, a live goldfish. That was really
Oh,
disturbing.
no.
I know there were a lot of special things that happened in that
In
party,
that
but it was
Zoom,
so good.
if you can't think of a funny story, like to listeners, one thing that was really helpful, I'm a Pinterest fan. So you can always search up really funny videos like of dogs doing funny things or like little kids with animals, or I don't know, you could probably YouTube like funniest scenes
Hmm.
of all time.
That's
Uh,
so true. I try to laugh every day because I think laughter is the best medicine. Put I intentionally watch news bloopers, and those are very hilarious. So news bloopers are good, and also there's this one video, it's my ultimate favorite. It's called The Cat Lawyer, and I will link to that
yeah.
in the notes. You just have to watch it.
She sent it to me recently and I actually cracked up from it. I was laughing so hard.
This
Legitimate. Okay.
is a really funny fail.
It's great.
Um, okay, so let's talk a little bit about relaxation. Wow. I think we could all relax more, honestly. Um, so do you have any recommendations for how to just chill out and unwind and relax in addition to the laughter and the glimmers and the gratitude?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what I do is meditation, and also I get out a lot. I know it's springtime, so in most places it should be really nice out. Getting outside, exposing yourself to the sun as much as you can is probably the best medicine to me. I do a lot of when I'm feeling very anxious or nervous, I'll put on headphones, I'll listen to some instrumental music, and I'll just walk around.
Hmm.
Frankly, that really calms me down. I also do a lot of meditations. A lot of it is just listening to calming music. In the wintertime, I would actually listen to birds chirping.
Mm.
Um, or if you've ever heard like whale sounds, ocean sounds, those are really peaceful and those would help me relax. I also think sometimes having no music and just cooking or being in your space with some silence is helpful. If you find your mind racing, which my mind tends to do sometimes, I always find listening to something that's going to offset it, but not like a punk rock song or like pop music, or not like my usuals, but a lot more that something that's just going to have me distracted, but in a healthy way. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah. 'Cause
What are some of your ways that you relax?
So singing, I like to sing in my car or in my shower, and deep breathing. There's one box breathing technique that I really like. There's some
Love
guided
that.
versions on YouTube. And just remembering that it's all going to be okay. Soothing my inner child, soothing myself like I'm my own mom. Like what would a really loving, nurturing, caring caretaker say to my little self? And then I try to act like that. Like
I
it's
love
going to be
that.
okay. It's going to be all
Drawing helps
right.
also if you're going off of that, like with an inner child, just letting
Yeah.
yourself free flow.
Yeah, those are just a couple of things. I know we talk about a lot more activities in our Take Your Power Back workshop.
We do. There is actually a specific part where we go into details of like how to bring about your creativity and giving yourself more space to explore that.
Yeah. So that's available at copingwithghosting.com. And that's Estee and I hosted that together. And it's just about an hour. You can download it and it comes with a guided workbook. And what I love about this Take Your Power Back workshop is that it will really help you feel better, like so quickly. So if you haven't gotten it, now's your chance to go grab it today. It will pair really well with this episode.
Yeah.
And
I'd love to take everyone actually through a little bit of a meditation now that we spoke about a way to calm and feel more relaxed. So If any of you are currently driving or doing something that would be dangerous, please pause what you're doing or listen to this at a later time. This is going to require you to close your eyes, so we wouldn't want you to be in any danger. So please be mindful of what you're doing currently. If you are able to find a comfortable seated position, or if you're dozing off to sleep and you're able to lay down, I encourage you to find a really comfortable space. Whatever you need to do to get comfortable, please find that place for you. The intention here is to help you feel calm. Whatever you may feel or whatever emotions come up for you during this meditation is valid and okay. Just allow it to simply be. This is a place for you to feel safe and the freedom to feel. When you're ready, you're going to softly close your eyes, and we're going to take 3 deep breaths with an open mouth exhale. Breathe in through your nose to the count of 3. And out, count to 3. One more time, in through your nose. And exhale. Last calming, soft breath in through your nose. And out through your mouth. You're going to imagine yourself in a meadow, going to travel there in your mind, walking through the soft, tall grass as your feet brush along its blades. Feel that beautiful, fresh grass, that smell. You see a stream up ahead leaning to a beautiful, big tree. You're curious, so you walk towards the tree and you sit under it. Sit under this beautiful, big, sturdy, radiant tree. You look up and see the sun rays ever so subtly peeking through the leaves, radiating a warm, loving glow as you bask in this feeling. You feel warm, you feel safe, and you feel calm. Feel the meadow's tranquility. Stay in this space for a little bit longer. Breathe in the meadow's smells. The sun is high in the sky, glowing and showering you with its radiance. We're going to take a moment to give ourselves gratitude. Say to yourself, thank you for being here today, for giving yourself this moment. Thank you. Feel this gratitude. Good. And as you end this moment of gratitude, let's take 3 final deep breaths to slowly bring yourself back to the present moment. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And let it go. And last deep inhale. And let it go. Allow yourself and your breathing to return to any normal pace that feels comfortable to you. As you do so, you begin to feel the surface beneath you, slowly wiggling your fingers and toes, moving your body if you feel called to do so. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes back to the present moment. I hope this meditation has helped you feel calmer and more peaceful. And if you found yourself having fallen asleep to this and you're listening to this part later on, that's okay too. Our intention here is to help you feel peace in your heart. Thank you for your time and energy here.
I love that. Thank you. I feel calmer.
I felt calmer saying it too. I think it's really important. Meditation has been such an instrumental part in my healing journey from being ghosted as well. So I'm very grateful to be a part of this.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for everything, Estee. This has been incredible. And I just want to ask, how can listeners connect with you?
So you can find me on my Instagram at Life with SDK or on through my podcast, Soulful Synthesis on Spotify. And I'm sure, Greta, you can link in the show notes in case anyone needs to get a hold of me. And I'd be happy to guide you through your own journey.
I love it. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me, Greta.
Finally, remember, when you're ghosted, you have more time to connect with yourself and people who have stellar communication skills. You deserve the best.